Marjolein. Thanks for checking in with us. You're calling in from France. Please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Marjo, and I'm in France. And in France, I have a little farm/forest that I bought in 2014. I came here after being a manager in palm oil. I was working in Solomon Islands, and I was responsible for 6,000 hectares of sustainable palm oil. And I saw in the field what it entails to do things sustainable and how difficult it is if you don't have the intrinsic motivation to do what you do. So then, of course, you can obey the rules. But I saw really the hassle with my colleagues. They were really doing their best to comply. But if the motivation is not coming from the inside for what you're doing, it's very hard. It's way harder to comply because you don't have this vision. I jumped from Solomon Island into nature of France, and I had this sustainable development goals in mind. Like, hey, I think this is really the way forward for us to go. And but I think the change started from within. So I started to develop my terrain with the idea that I really want to start to work with, CEOs and managers and people from politics who have a big influence, who influence a big group of people, to get them here and to make retreats here in the forest. Because I've learned, I grow up in an urbanized area, but in Sierra Leone, in Solomon Island, I really learned also as a manager. But in the same time, I was so much exposed to these wild areas that I also start to learn how to live in the bush, how to do things and how you can live off grid. And because it's all new to me, and there's living a lynx here and passing wolves, and that's very special for Europe, for Western Europe. So I developed this place for 7 years. I was fully ready to start it, and suddenly I bumped into the Inner Developemt Goals, and I was so surprised, like, whoa, there's a whole network out there with people wanting to do the same thing as me. And I went so enthusiastic because it was exactly what I envisioned. And then when I read through the Inner Developemt Goals, for me, it's really the being. That's really what I want to offer. And there's so much noise from the outside, and take the silence again and to start to listen what the voice inside is saying. And to basically to ignite this inner fire and to recalibrate our inner compass, because our compass often get distorted by unhealthy relationships, or our love life, or our work, or the family we grow up in. And once we are on our own track and we know our compass is a healthy one that works for us as an individual, so we don't have to convince any other person, we just have to live it ourselves, then very easily it will go tuck tuck tuck. Your spirit and your mind and your heart and your guts, they will be aligned, and what you do is what you live is aligned actions. And that's really what I would love to offer to the world, and that's my contribution to the Inner Developemt Goals, the community. Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, with your work, with the retreats, how do you now see the interaction between the Inner Developemt Goals framework and your practice, and how the framework might be helpful for helping bring people in, feeling comfortable that there is such a framework? Do you think it makes a difference?
Yeah, I think the whole framework make it more easy also for people to speak in their jobs. If you can refer to something. What I remember from my corporate life, if I went to my boss and I start to discuss, and we start to discuss how I should develop, and I was a kind of proactive employee always. So I came to them and I said, I found this and I want to do this type of education, and if I follow this course or this thing, it will equip me with this and this skills, and this is how I can apply it in the company, and this is your benefit from me growing on this topic. So I think it's way more easy if you have a management position and you have to speak, to HR or whatever, that you can say, oh, it's not, I go to a retreat and, do a kind of Buddhist. No, it's not a Buddhist practice. This is real empowering corporate people in their job who have real big impact. And if they can refer to, as an employee inside their corporate position, to a framework like the Inner Developemt Goals, it's way more clearer. It gives people wording and a legitimate reason, and also an immediately clear picture to others who are not acquainted with it. Well, then if you have a motivated employee, it makes it way more easier for them to speak to HR and their bosses.
How has having those projects catalyzed your own growth? How have you had to grow internally? Give us a little bit of a snapshot about.
Well, I went from an income from 10,000 euro to €0. Yeah, and being a manager and being in nature, it's different if you go back to home. Now I really stay in nature, and that's really unlearning all the things that you think that are necessary, but that are not necessary to live. And it's my own quest is to find essence, and I love it. I grew up in a very religious family, Christian family, and it was so tight that it suffocated me. So one of my earliest quests was like, oh, if Jesus says this and Buddha says that and Mohammed said that, and they say all the same thing, probably this is the essence, because I was taught that where Buddha said something different and Mohammed said something different, therefore Christians were right. But somehow my mind flipped as a teenager already, like, oh no, probably it's exactly the other way around. And so that's where my quest started, to undo myself from a lot of convictions. And to overcome that, you really have to learn this skill to spot them and think, okay, it's fine if they are here, but maybe I listen to them, but that I also have this liberty not to listen to them.
And I think because you had something so obvious to question, let's say, but it's the same process for everyone. I think when things aren't as obvious, it's even harder to apply that and do.
And I'm very skilled with it now.
So when you've had a big workout like that, then I would think the skill set you have is really highly developed, because you have had to disentangle so much complexity in order to come out with what is simply and purely true for you. Is there something you want to finish on?
Yeah, well, I think it's amazing that you also bumped into this, and I really look forward to walk this path hand in hand as a community together. And I can't wait to meet more and more people on a one-to-one basis also.
I can't wait to hear how your retreats are going. And also, I know for a lot of people, they're not sure with the IDGs, how best to communicate them. So I think from your experience over time, being able to feed back to the community how you are helping bridge people into these experiences is going to be really helpful. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. We talk to you soon.
Okay, see you. Bye.